What's going on, everyone? Welcome to Movie Emporium's TV review of Disney Plus's original series, Star Wars Tales of the Empire. This will follow the 6-episode series that is now on Disney Plus. Okay, so in Star Wars Tales of the Empire, we have a second series in this Tales of franchise, I guess you could say at this point. This time we follow Bariss Offee and, of course, Morgan Elsbeth, and it's in essence like Tales of the Jedi, kind of in 45 minutes for each part, gives us kind of pieces and parts of the stories that we've been wondering about these two individuals. What happened to Bariss Offee? How did Morgan Elsbeth become who she was? And in essence, it's a kind of filling in the gaps of everything that you know about these two individual characters from watching either the Clone Wars or any of the movies or anything that they've been in and so on and so forth. We also know, Morgan Elsbeth has died, and of course the Ahsoka franchise and stuff like that. So it's allowing these characters to get a little more explanation, a little more depth, a little more competency when it comes to who they are and what they are. And so these individual episodes, 3 of course are given to Morgan Elsbeth, which is the first 3 episodes. The last 3 of course are given to Bariss Offee, and it shows kind of what happens and who they were and what they were and so on and so forth. We see, of course, as this has been explained in some of these news stories, if you've read them, of course it shows how Bariss Offee became an Inquisitor, and of course Morgan Elsbeth, how she became who she was. And so with that said, Tales of the Jedi was actually quite good. It actually was quite interesting to see Count Dooku, who was not what I would consider the most well-rounded character when it came to Star Wars, to be fairly honest. He was an individual who I had a lot of issues with when it came to just his overall story arc and stuff like that. So when it gave us the opportunity to see kind of how Dooku went to the dark side and how it kind of, persuaded him and that kind of feel and stuff like that, that was a really well-done story arc. And the same thing with Ahsoka Tano. It gives us a little bit more about her story and stuff like that, leading up to her eventual play into Anakin Skywalker and the actual story around. So Morgan Elsbeth is a character that kind of got introduced in The Mandalorian and now seems to be primed to be one of the major players in the Star Wars universe, according to David Filoni. I'm fine with the character. In essence, I don't feel the character really needed to be there, but she's a Night Sister, and Night Sister is very important to David Filoni. And I get it. It's fine. Give her some back history. Allow her character to get more depth so that she can more and more popular, that type of thing. It's one of those things that they do in Star Wars all the time at this point. Now, Bariss Offee is a character that was in the George Lucas prequel series. She was a Jedi, and of course, she kind of disappears from the series after, she's not very much in the prequels, but she kind of disappears. And obviously Dave Filoni loves her character, loves the idea of her character, so he gave her a fall from grace and stuff like that with the bombing of the Jedi Temple. And so using the idea of giving her more what happened to her after when she was arrested is an interesting idea and something I was kind of interested to look forward to. The question really remains is, does these 6 episodes that are like, once again, 10 to 15 minutes apiece really do a nice justice to these characters, and does it do it well in the stake of the Star Wars lore? To be fairly honest, I like one half of this series more than the other. I don't hate Morgan Elsbeth as a character. I just think that she isn't very well-roundedly put together in this series. The stuff that they do with her, and they do this also with Bariss Offee, is they give 3 different eras of this character. So we get the young version of Morgan Elsbeth, about how she became diluted from the world of Star Wars. I mean, the world of like light and good and dark and bad and stuff like that. So you get some interesting stuff there. A major villain returns, and then we get some stuff with her in the Empire, and then we get stuff with her when she runs that compound that we see, and of course in The Mandalorian and Ahsoka. But I never really got an interesting character arc to her story. It just felt like they were just adding more stuff in there. Like, this is also kind of a problem I have with Bariss Offee, is I don't feel like that these stories were enough, to be fairly honest. I think Morgan Elsbeth, that they really want to flesh her character out, they need to give her her own series, to be fairly honest, because giving us dribs and drabs of like 15 minutes is not really indicative or intuitive in a lot of respects. So I'm not saying I didn't enjoy it, but I think the fact that the character is trying to be this new phase enemy of the Star Wars universe, and you just don't feel like you get enough of the character. There's a point where she's trying to sell plans or trying to create a new starship for the Empire, and it's interesting, but then it leads into probably the most interesting point, which is the second episode of her trilogy of episodes. But I want more of that. I want more interest in that, and I feel like it's so short that you don't get that. And I don't know. I feel like that it just isn't that remembered, or whatever you want to call it. And so therefore, I just don't think it's well put together. I think it really feels like shortened by its short length, and I don't know. I just feel like it could have added more, to be fairly honest. I think it could have been more. And I'm not trying to spoil anything, but like when it gets to the end and it leads into kind of like what the New Republic and what Morgan Elsbeth represents, I think it tries, and I think it's an interesting idea. I just think that once again they're using this short time frame to give us so much information, and then that short information just doesn't work very well, to be fairly honest. So I think overall, I think it's fine for 45 minutes, but I think you need a lot more to her series, or a lot more to her character to give us an interesting dynamic, and I don't think that works here. I think everybody's fine. I think, they bringing back Lars Mikkelsen as Thrawn. They're bringing some other characters. Of course, the actress who was playing Morgan Elsbeth in the series doesn't come back here as a voice actress. It's actually someone different, and it's fine. Like I said, they're all fine. Everybody plays their characters and their parts fine. It just, the story is too short and too condensed to be worth its weight in gold, I guess, is the problem. And so therefore, Morgan Elsbeth's story, the 3-part arc, I'm going to give like a 7 out of 10, because it's still interesting. The stuff there is interesting. It just needs more. And that leads into the Bariss Offee stuff, which I really enjoyed Bariss Offee's arc in this series, or at least this 3-part episode arc that she gets. But once again, it's so interesting and so unique about where Bariss Offee's character goes and the eventual conclusion of the 3 episodes, that they definitely, even if they don't do one for Morgan Elsbeth, they should definitely do a series for Bariss Offee, and how she went from, political prisoner, or technically a prisoner because of what she did, to her rise in the Inquisitors, to eventually her story arc conclusion, which I won't get into any spoilers, because it's a really interesting arc, and it made me really want more. I mean, more than even Morgan Elsbeth's character, because Bariss Offee's turned into this really dimensionally interesting character, and she pretty much works with the 4th Inquisitor in this series, and I really like the 4th Inquisitor story arc. I think it's a very interesting one. I think it works. And I think even though there's only 45 minutes, I think there's some really interesting consequences and ideas being presented by the crew who worked on this, and David Filoni's ideas and kind of what he's presenting. And I just thought that was a really interesting take. It was these 6 episodes are really dark, very, very violent. And unlike Star Wars in a lot of respects, because when you think of Star Wars, it's definitely violent, but you don't necessarily see how violent it is. You just kind of get like the far away shot of the planet exploding, or so on and so forth. But I think the fact that Star Wars has gotten edgier in the last few decades, or whatever, last couple of decades, really shows that this universe can be a very mature universe, and it really shows here. And I love some of the things that they do with Bariss Offee's character, and would love to see a whole entire TV series just dedicated to her, because I think they could do a lot of interesting stuff with maybe doing like a history of who Bariss Offee is, how she came up in the ranks of the Jedi, and her fall from grace, which is of course in the Clone Wars and stuff like that. And I think it's Clone Wars. But once again, it's a very well put together, but I want more. It's like an 8 out of 10, to be fairly honest, because you need more, you want more. And I guess that's the whole point of this 6-part miniseries, is to kind of maybe test the waters to see if these characters would work on their own as a TV series. But I think that, once again, I think what they do with Bariss Offee, what they do with the fact that they bring Jason Isaacs back as the Grand Inquisitor, how they represent these characters, I think the Bariss Offee story arc in the 3 parts is a lot better, well represented, told in different eras of her life, and I think that it does it much, much better than Morgan Elsbeth's story. But once again, I need more. Like, it makes me want more. It makes me feel like you need a whole entire TV series out of either of these characters, especially Bariss Offee in a lot of respects. So overall, 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10, it's still watchable, still enjoyable for each part. It just needs more. That's how I look at it. Like I said, it's still recommended if you like Star Wars. If you don't like Star Wars, you're not going to care anyways. But if you like Star Wars and you like these 2 individual characters, I think you'll at least get something out of it. But like I said, you'll be wanting more. So, but with that said, that is going to be my take on Star Wars Tales of the Empire. Once again, definitely check it out if you're interested. So with that said, comments below. What do you think of these 6 episodes? What do you think about Bariss Offee and Morgan Elsbeth? Let me know in the comments below. But otherwise, if you like what you see on this channel, hit the subscribe button to join Movie Emporium. Hit that notification bell at the top to find what's coming next. If you like this video, awesome. Hit that like button. And as always, we'll see you guys on the next video. Peace out.